So this is a talk about quantifying browser usage, which I'm interested in because I live inside my browser, basically, like many of us today in the software development realm, or the overly social amongst us, or the overly research-minded. So that's my Twitter, Beau Gunderson.
Shout a bit?
Yes, I will shout. So what did I do? I wrote a Chrome extension to log with a timestamp every tab action I do in my browser. That's closing or opening a tab. I'd like to extend it to every time I switch tabs, because what I'm really trying to get at is how much attention am I giving throughout my workday, basically. I have ADD, and I struggle with going off on wild tangents. Like something is interesting to me, I'll go research it when I should be writing code. And sometimes that's nice. You have to give your body a rest. You have to give your mind a rest. But it's hard to find the right balance. So how I did it was I instrumented Google Chrome, and if there are developers amongst you that use other browsers, I would like your help in extending this. And I made quantifiedbrowsing.com, which isn't much but a form to register your interest at this point. The code's there, it's just not deployed. So it's free, it's open source, source is on GitHub, and it only partially exists at this point. But with your help, it'll get somewhere. What did I learn? So in 2 months, I opened or closed 32,000 tabs, which averages out to about 500 a day. So I look at a lot of websites, and much of it is in the for work, right? So I need to do something. I don't know how to do it. Go to Stack Overflow, see if somebody else knows how to do it. Go look at documentation, all those things. My uncle, who likes to bust my chops, told me, he listed Beethoven's birth and death dates, and he's like, zero tab actions for that whole period. And I said, his keyboard output is much more highly regarded than mine, too. So this, you can see, is the number of open tabs I have over the course of this month. And the red, the tiny line, is the number of windows, which isn't very useful for me. You can see, this is October 21st to November 11th. There are these trends, right? It goes up, and then it crashes. And I've called those out here. You can see there's these little mini events that happen over the course of these 2 months, where I basically declare tab bankruptcy. There are these things that I've kept resident in my browser that I want to do something with them, but the time isn't there, or I've overestimated the time and attention I have available to do something with these. Some of them might be a news article that somebody sent me, and they're like, oh, it's really important, you've got to read this, you'll love it. Or if it's something for work that came up, and I'm like, oh, I want to implement this feature, here are the 5 or 6 tabs that are relevant to it. And this is an actual thing I learned, because I thought I was immune to tab bankruptcy, right? Because like any tab addict, I use Fresh Start and save my whole 96. So I'll go back here briefly and give you scale. The top of the line is about 100 tabs open at any given point, which looks like, show you briefly. You can see here, you can't even see my icons anymore. That's what that looks like. Which is, you can tell who browsers are made for, not the people that like a ton of tabs. So I thought, I'm going to save this stuff and go back to it, but that's not the case. It's kind of the Pinterest phenomenon, where you, instead of shopping for things and spending money, you save it to a list, and then maybe one day you go back and revisit it and actually buy it. But it kind of ticks that box of, I'm saving this, and that's as far as I'm going to get with it. Oops, I'm on my own auto now. So this was kind of my flow. I go off on a tangent, or I have a question I'm trying to solve at work. Open a ton of tabs, close most of them, which is where I fail, because I don't close them all, right? And that's where that gradual increase in things I want to do comes from, which then saps my attention because I can't see the icons on my tabs and I don't even know what's going on. And this is just kind of zooming into, I think, 5 or 6 days. And you can see, here I was doing something at work, and I needed to know, something about pointers in C, or so I go off on this wild tangent, and then I manage to swing it back down. But then I gradually increase throughout the rest of the day, and kind of and the long straight lines are when I'm sleeping, basically. So it's also a pretty good record of my activity on the computer. So right, mitigation. How do you mitigate having all these things that you want to do? A lot of people save them to a service like Pocket or Read It Later. And I do a ton of that too. However, I have thousands of things saved to Read It Later that I would eventually like to do later, but probably won't. And I thought, why is that? Some of it has to do with the storage mode of a stack versus a queue. The difference being one is last in, first out, and the other is first in, first out. So Read It Later is first in, first out. I save something to it, it's going to be the first thing that comes up when I go to read it. The problem being I'm constantly putting new things in and not emptying it out. So there are things like hundreds of pages down in my Read It Later that I'll probably never get to because I'm constantly putting new things in and then picking and choosing from the first 20, 30 things in there. So it'd be interesting to give people a choice, I think, in the manner that they consume from these feeds. And I've tried to do some thinking about how that might work in like a browser context. What's next? So I want to, like I mentioned, I want to instrument this to do context switches. So every time you switch a tab, timestamp that and log that. And actually releasing the Chrome extension. It's on GitHub now, but actually putting it in the store and whatnot. So if you would like to help, Beau at BeauGunderson.com or at Beau Gunderson on Twitter. And thanks for your time. Yes.
I think when you talked a few years ago, you said your max was 67. So have you?
Yeah. There
is it like computer performance that's gone up, or?
So I think the most that I've had open at any given time is like 100 something now. And yeah, I actually have screenshots from, running Windows 98, because there were no browser tabs at that point. You had actual IE windows open, having like 40 something IE windows open, and then the whole browser would crash. And then there was no fresh start. Everything you were doing is gone. Then going from Firefox and using TabMix Plus and Firefox, the one benefit being you could kind of stack them, so you could always see the titles at least. But then your screen real estate for the actual browser portion would shrink based on how many things you had open. What's the extension you use? Tina?
I use Tabs Outliner.
Oh, you're right, Tab Outliner. Yeah. So it's interesting. People are working on this problem for those among us who really like to keep things resident in memory. Part of this is also. I feel like I have a scanner personality, so I've been doing some more research in that area. I think you back there had your hand up first.
So when you have 100 tabs open,
Yeah.
and your computer crashes, what happens?
So 5 years ago, I'd feel awful, but nowadays they're all saved, which it could be good or bad depending on your viewpoint. So with Chrome, for example, if it crashes, you can open it back up again and restore them all.
So first of all, I totally relate to your pain. I think your times is actually the new email. We're always trying to go to zero,
Right.
but it's almost never the case.
Mm-hmm.
Always crazy. My question is, what do you do on your phone? If you use mobile Safari, you're limited to 8 times.
Honestly, the CEO of I work at Singly, the CEO there, Jason. He is the opposite of me. He's got 2 or 3 browser tabs open and 40 on his phone. And I have 1 or 2 or 3 Macs on my phone, and then I always anytime I go to browse on my phone, I just kill everything out. For whatever reason, it's a different mindset almost for me. It's not. I think because I view it as more transitive, leaving something open there is not a guarantee that it's going to remain open. So I purposely avoid that.
How does your tool compare to rescue time? I know it does something along those lines.
Right. So I'm really interested in rescue time and actually logging what I'm doing or what websites I'm at. But this is just it's extremely simple. It's a timestamp and the number of open tabs, and soon it will be a timestamp and just the fact that you switched tabs. which for me I'm interested in it as a proxy for how much attention I'm giving or how little attention I have to give something.
Have you ever tried using multiple windows so that there's some level of prioritization or some level of sort of permanence versus transience? I mean, one thing that I'm thinking of is like all my downloads are to an inbox folder, and it's like if it lives in there, it doesn't. Like every 2 weeks, I just delete everything without looking at it. So
Yeah, that thought terrifies me.
So like, I mean, I was thinking of like, what if you made your browser extensions that automatically close things that have been open?
So my coworker suggested that so Netflix has this idea of the Chaos Monkey, which is a service that exists to randomly crash other parts of the Netflix infrastructure. And they do this so that they're forced to be redundant. And he's like, you should do that for your browser and just randomly crash a tab. And I'm like, how am I going to know what tab it is? I needed whatever was there. I needed that. It's like that's the worst practical joke anybody could ever do to me. So it's like, and I've tried without much success to split things into windows. For me, I need a different kind of browser, I guess. But Chrome is fast, and I like the dev tool, so I use it.
So if you were thinking about saving things and sort of the first in, last out, whatever, do you think it would make any difference if things were being spit randomly at you? Like you just got 5 hits and then you had to decide, do I care about this anymore? Do I still want to save this?
So immediately, what I take from that is, the idea that I like from that is 5 things. So if it's 5 random or 5 from the middle or 5 from the beginning or the end, like that sounds manageable because I can look through 5 things and decide like, maybe I don't care about this anymore, banish it forever, or like I really, really do want to read that one someday. Yeah. I like that idea.
So going back to what Roman was saying, it seems like a good solution would maybe be like a browser with a max number of tabs. So like you are not allowed to have more than 8 tabs, and then you'd be forced to do what you do on your cell phone, right?
Yeah.
And you probably offload it to something else, but at least then it wouldn't be taking up memory.
Yeah.
Use Internet Explorer.
Yeah, there you go. That's an interesting idea. I've wanted to experiment with something like that. The problem is getting below 10 tabs to begin with, so I can start the experiment.
Do you know if Chrome will let you change the appearance of the tabs? Maybe it would be nice to show which tabs are open around the same time period, or which tabs are the oldest, starting
right.
with
So
yellow.
Firefox, yes. Chrome, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could probably modify the fav icons dynamically.
That is interesting. Yeah.
You can't see
By the way,
Icons, right?
on a Retina MacBook Pro, 47 is the magic number. Above 47, no favicons. Below that, yeah, that's your fun
That's the
fact.
time you call it quits. Like.
I'm just getting started at that point.
Is there any particular? Sorry.
Favorite anything?
So previous to, I don't know. Yes, there was a time when I favorited lots and lots of things, but then I realized I was never going back and doing with them, and so that favoriting was my Pinterest effect. It was that there's this awesome thing, favorite, never have to think about it again, which is good because it keeps things, less things open. But I don't know. There's an infinite amount of things out there, and that's like the scanner personality I alluded to. So I'm constantly filling up my available buffer.
There's a Chrome plugin that does like project tabs, so you can sort things as projects.
Yeah, I think that's Tab Outliner. At least that's the one I've seen that's like that.
I've been using that.
Yeah.
Decent.
I'm going to give it an honest try.
I'm really interested in your sort of bankruptcy period. It looks like it's a quick drop off. Is that like a conscious day where you sit down and think this is too much, I'm going to delete everything, or is it like?
So, it's interesting how much of this is enforced by the limitations of the computer. So, for example, I'll be sitting there with 80 tabs open, happily, tabbing away, and I'll get a software update, and I'm like, oh, I got to save all these, so on fresh start, save everything, restart the computer, open a browser. I'm like, it kind of feels nice to not have everything I want to do in my face right now. I'm like, I'll go back to those later, and sometimes I just never do.
I just realized, how do you find something in those tabs?
Lots of Control Tab and Control Shift Tab. So I know generally in space where they are in the linear order of tabs.
That's time. All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Cool.